Jab, our weekly segment on the crucial COVID vaccine and the misinformation conspiritualists love to spread about it. I should start the jab today with an addendum to what we discussed in part last week. This is about AstraZeneca and a blood clotting disorder. When we recorded last week, AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine had been assessed by the European Medicines Agency as not being causally linked to a reported incidence of blood clots. But in the days since, there have been some new developments. A German clotting specialist named Andreas Greinacher and his research team appear to have identified a rare disorder in which the wrong kinds of antibodies are created, and this leads to widespread clotting. The good news is that if this is the case, it is rare and also treatable. For now, though, more research is necessary to find out if there is a causal connection, and some countries are limiting the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine for this reason. I want to make a note here that this process of evaluating new data, revising knowledge, and then seeking further clarification is central to scientific method, which can be frustrating and confusing when you're trying to follow the story. Good science communication on developing news usually takes the form of, here's what our research shows, this is what we think it might mean, but we don't know for sure, so more research is required. And that's exactly what Andreas Greinacher is doing. But there's a special type of expert beloved by conspiracists that I want to talk about today. It's the scientific contrarian who dares to speak up against mainstream consensus. Now, having advanced degrees or a CV that includes working in research adds value and impact. Whether they're blowing the whistle on vaccines causing autism, or touting computer simulations that prove Building 7 had to have been a controlled demolition, or exposing the cover-up of extraterrestrial technology from downed UFOs, or raising the alarm about the calamitous nature of quarantine measures and COVID vaccines, these contrarian experts wave a wand of seeming scientific legitimacy over conspiracist claims. For today's conspiritualists, paradigm-shifting newsfeed revelation is intoxicating. The contrarian hero rises to social media prominence by going public in a way that completely circumvents how scientific data are evaluated. But that's a feature, not a bug. It's part of the maverick job description. Suddenly finding themselves in the populist spotlight, they can freely make claims without evidence and then explain their current unemployment, in some cases, as personal victimization, and the scientific consensus against their opinions as nefarious, corruption, and conspiracy. A recent addition to this long list of contrarian scientists is Michael Yeadon. He's the ex-Pfizer researcher and VP who founded a successful biotech company and then went off the rails. Yeadon is ground zero for the false claim that the COVID vaccine causes infertility in women. The scientific community refuted this, but that didn't stop it from becoming a virulent trope on anti-vax websites like RFK Jr.'s Children's Health Defense. Since April of 2020, Yeadon has been making one failed prediction after another. He tweeted that it was very unlikely that the COVID death toll would reach 40,000 in the UK, and that it would just fade away. Well, the count stands at 127,000 right now. That September, he wrote in an article that there is no biological principle that leads us to expect a second wave. Wrong again, Mr. Yeadon. The following month, he said there was absolutely no need for a COVID vaccine. The month after that, in a video viewed over 1 million times, he asserted that the pandemic was over. And by December 1st, he had co-authored the petition containing the data-free infertility claim. In January, research by the nonprofit Kaiser Family Foundation showed that 13% of unvaccinated people had heard that COVID-19 vaccines have been shown to cause infertility. All evidence so far shows that vaccinated women have absolutely no problem getting pregnant. They also pass along some COVID immunity to their babies. As Imran Ahmed of the Center for Countering Digital Hate told Reuters in the article I will link in the show notes, Yeadon's background gives his dangerous and harmful messages false credibility. That's exactly the often obscured problem with the contrarian expert. They flash scientific credentials but present no scientific data. They are touted for their work in the field but don't follow its rigor. Failed predictions litter their wake with no accountability and certainly no hint of an apology or an addendum, as we offered at the top of this segment. And their flavor of the week prominence on the conspiracy skyline lives on only by the sensationalist headline, not by the details of what was claimed. And it lives on, too, with the collateral damage of a misinformed and paranoid public. So let's name this when we see it. It's called the argument from authority fallacy. And the point is simply this: academic credentials and past employment history don't make up for a lack of evidence in support of claims that radically contradict the scientific consensus.